So I'm very blessed because I hope I can instill hope in some people and let them know that recovery is possible.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Suzette Glasner podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're learning something valuable from my videos. Also, please feel free to email me any questions, comments, or suggestions for future guests or topics you'd like to see covered at askdrglasner@gmail.com. So today I want to spend some time talking about gratitude. It's that time of year. We're just around the corner from Thanksgiving. That came up fast. And we have this sort of prompt to think about gratitude because of the nature of the Thanksgiving holiday, but it's really something that ideally we would incorporate into our daily lives at all different times of year because we know there are so many mental health benefits to being grateful. And there's a lot to unpack there. I'm going to unpack a little bit of it today in relation to a recent interview I did with JD Vance's mom, Beverly or Bev Vance Aikins. And we spoke about her addiction recovery after a 15-year addiction to opioids. If you haven't seen that interview, you should definitely check it out. There's a lot to be learned from Bev. And one of the things I just wanted to reflect upon was the way that gratitude came up in our conversation multiple times. Though she didn't name it gratitude every single time, it played a significant role in her recovery and really in her life journey and in the rebuilding of a meaningful life. In many ways, that's not surprising because there have been studies on gratitude in various forms that show that people who experience and practice gratitude have better mental health and they have more sustained recovery from addiction. So people who practice gratitude or experience gratitude are more likely to remain sober 6 months after they've completed treatment than people who aren't so grateful. So I want to talk a little bit about why that is. One of the interesting things about my interview with Bev and the ways that gratitude came up was that sometimes when she spoke about it, she didn't call it gratitude per se. There were moments when she said that she was blessed.
So I'm very blessed because I hope I can instill hope in some people and let them know that recovery is possible.
So gratitude has different components, and one of those components is spiritual in nature. And so when she notes that she is blessed, she recognizes that there are things that have been given to her. There are some things, some realities that she's thankful for that she has created for herself, but there are those God-given things, or if you don't believe in God specifically, some higher power, there are some things that are given to us, and they're things that she referred to as really just lucky to have. That kind of belief system that is spiritual in nature is also related to better outcomes when people are in addiction recovery and also related to better mental health. So why would that be? There's a couple of reasons why spirituality is linked with better mental health and better treatment outcomes from mental health and addiction care. One is it gives us a sense of meaning and purpose.
I know I say I'm blessed a lot, but I really am blessed. I just couldn't imagine my life getting any better.
Your life has meaning and purpose now.
It does.
Spirituality also gives us a way of coping with challenging times in life or challenging situations that arise. People use as sort of an outgrowth of spirituality, prayer, meditation, and even mindfulness as a way of coping with adversity. And for many people, it works. Not for everybody, but for many people, it's very effective. And then finally, being spiritual can also lead us to a very rich form of social support, because if you do it in the context of a spiritual group or a religious group, you find other people who you can connect with around this theme of spirituality in your life. And we know from lots of research studies that recovery from both mental health and from addiction in particular is very much enhanced by the presence of quality social support. So not just a lot of people around you necessarily, but people who share common bonds with you over different things, whether that's other people who are in addiction recovery or mental health recovery, or whether that's other people who believe in some of the same spiritual practice or share the same spiritual practices that you do. Those are a couple of the reasons why spirituality actually helps people to stay more psychologically healthy and resilient in the face of the very natural ups and downs and struggles that we all have to encounter and face in life. So there's a second component of gratitude that is really connected to mindfulness. And not everybody knows what mindfulness is. So I'll give you sort of a high level definition of mindfulness. And mindfulness is a particular way of being present and paying attention to your moment to moment experiences in life. You're doing it in a way that's not judgmental necessarily, which does take a lot of practice for people, but it's a way of paying attention and constantly observing one's experience and really kind of like getting in touch with what it is that you're feeling mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. Something that Bev spoke about that really links to this mindfulness component of gratitude is about what she notices is good about her life. So she talks a lot about the little things, about things that are maybe a little bit mundane to most people, about making the decision to walk her dog, the things that are crossing her mind on a day-to-day basis now that she's free from the obsession with acquiring, using, and recovering from opioid use. So these may seem like little things, but they're actually bigger than they sound because they're tied to her physical and mental health.
Being on this side of recovery is so amazing. It's amazing to get up every day. And like I used to get up and the first thing I thought was, who do I have to sleep with today? Who do I have to manipulate today? Now, the first thing I get up and I think of is, I wonder if Belle feels like taking a walk this morning. Belle is my dog. And that's such a good feeling.
That's something that requires a degree of mindfulness to be able to pay attention to and notice the little things that are happening in your mind, in your body, and in your sort of day-to-day life that you have to be grateful for. So I encourage you to practice noticing all those little things. The ability to walk, the ability to eat, like things that not everybody has, but you have to really tune into what's happening moment to moment. And all of us are so distracted with our cell phones and the multiple sources of stimulation that are competing for our attention all the time. So sometimes it takes deliberate effort to notice what's happening moment to moment and pay attention closely enough to notice what it is that we have to be grateful for. But we know that with that regular practice of mindfulness comes a lot of mental health wellness, resilience, even brain changes in the face of mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. So there's one aspect of gratitude that researchers have done a little bit more in-depth analysis on. And there really is more to it than just saying thanks, especially for people in recovery. People in recovery who experience gratitude are often also in a process of self-forgiveness, and they really go hand in hand. So in Bev's case, she really had to come to terms with some of the ways that she had hurt her family in the course of her addiction, the impact that her addictive behaviors had on the people she loves. And she really wrestled with guilt and shame, which is something that is not uncommon among people who are trying to overcome their addictions.
They were just kids, and I was the monster.
But on the other side of that guilt and shame that she wrestled with, she forgave herself. It's still a work in progress, she admits, but it's an active one. And between that self-forgiveness and that sense of gratitude, she really has built a meaningful life. There was a study that was published just a few months ago that shows that forgiveness and gratitude are both ways of achieving mental well-being when you actively work towards being kind to yourself. So really forgiving yourself for things that you might have not have done so well in life. And they could be big things like ways you've hurt your family in the course of your addiction or your mental health struggles. And they could also be little things. But when you engage in that kind of self-forgiveness and you find things to be thankful for, that brings about a certain kind of positivity. And when you experience positive emotions, that impacts three things that are really important. So the first is your relationship with yourself. And yes, we all have a relationship with ourselves, not just with other people. It's that inner dialogue that you have with yourself when you do something wrong. Do you say to yourself, you idiot? Or do you say, that's okay, I'm not perfect? So somebody who's practicing self-compassion is going to say, it's okay, you're not perfect, move on, you'll do better next time. So having that kind of self-compassion towards yourself is good for your mental health. When you have a sense of gratitude and the ability to forgive yourself, your relationship with others is also higher quality. And Bev is a great testament to this. She really rebuilt her family relationships with gratitude in her heart for the fact that they were still there waiting for her, even after there were a lot of things that she did that led them to not trust her, to create distance between themselves and her just for their own mental health, I'm sure. But they were still there and willing to do that reparative work with her. And for that, she found a sense of forgiveness. That made it easier for them to forgive her because she was able to forgive herself and open herself up to a continued relationship with them and just weathering some of the result of the consequences of the pain that they experienced. So with JD Vance's memoir, as well as the movie, she had to see herself painted in this very negative light and accept that in order to forgive herself and allow herself to be forgiven. And then finally, we know that when you're actively working towards being kind towards yourself, that also impacts your ability to be spiritual. And we know that spirituality improves people's outcomes from treatment for addiction. So it really helps with recovery.
People get clean and sober any number of ways. And I just find that I really talk to God a lot and just ask him where I should be, what I should do. And when I'm completely still, I hear the answer.
That's amazing.
And I want to talk a little bit about self-compassion just for a moment as we wrap up. So we all know what compassion is. Compassion is being aware of and affected by the suffering of other people and feeling kindness toward their suffering and attempting to be helpful. And so if you think about that all directed towards oneself, self-compassion is when you're being caring and compassionate towards your own suffering and distress, and you're approaching yourself with kindness and understanding and recognition that all of us humans are imperfect and make mistakes. And I like this quote from the Dalai Lama, who says, if you don't love yourself, you cannot love others. You will not be able to love others if you have no compassion for yourself. Then you're not able of developing compassion for others. So this goes in multiple directions. What I recommend is a practice of mindfulness meditation. There are gratitude and compassion meditations that can really help you connect with what you're grateful for. If you're not thinking about it every day, it might not come that naturally to you. So this enhances sort of your awareness of your inner dialogue and your relationship with yourself and your relationship with other people. And that will help elevate your practice of mindfulness, kindness, and compassion, both with others and with yourself. So I'm including some links in my bio to some guided mindfulness meditations that really focus on gratitude and compassion. I'm wishing all of you a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope that you're able to incorporate some mindfulness practices into your daily life to help you maintain a sense of gratitude and self-compassion year-round.